What up world, my name is Matt and I make videos on how to think better, do better, and be better. And today's a great day, so we're going to make it count with my video, which is part 2 of the Information Advantage series. So let's jump in. If you missed part 1, I'm going to link it right here for you, otherwise, let's get to it. As I mentioned last time, if I was to simplify my worldview, I'd look at it from two perspectives, information and energy. Throughout history, humans have looked for advantages over others so that they could get ahead. It's a part of our nature as a competitive species, and that's why we are really the apex dominant predator on planet Earth at the moment. And I truly believe our information advantage is a big part of this. The areas that I mentioned in my last video were one component of that advantage. But what I'm diving into in this video, I think really kicks it over the edge. And I'm going to be discussing knowledge, unlearning, application, and usefulness of information. And you know me, so we're going to start with a quick quote here from T.S. Eliot. "Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? In our age, men seem more than ever prone to confuse wisdom with knowledge and knowledge with information." And this is important because information does not equal knowledge. Knowledge is created through reasoning, where we go through information objectively and we try and find the bits and pieces of it that ring true. And I like to think of it this way: you need a metaphorical key to unlock the knowledge found in information. Well, I mean, you really do need many keys over a period of time, and sometimes in a particular order. And that key is reasoning. You use your reasoning to unlock those doors into knowledge. And this reasoning comes from your critical thinking skills, your observational skills, and just really putting it all together. As you unlock one new door into some new knowledge, there are many other doors that open to you. It's kind of like when you're learning math. You learn addition and then subtraction, and you start opening up doors to all these other areas of knowledge that require those operations. Knowledge builds and compounds, which is total side note, which is why I think it's so important to really work on learning and thinking when you're younger, because it really does compound over time. People like to sing the praises of compound interest in finance, which I totally get, but it's even better if you use it to build your brain and learn. The catch is, to open these doors of knowledge, is that you have to really internalize the information and understand it. Be able to explain it back to someone. It's not just about memorization. In 2007, Charlie Munger delivered a USC commencement speech. And he told a story about the physicist Max Planck. The story begins with Max Planck being driven around by his chauffeur to all sorts of different lectures he was giving around Germany. And his chauffeur went with him everywhere. So much so to the point where the chauffeur knew exactly what he was going to say in his lectures. Eventually, the chauffeur thought he knew the information so well, he asked Max, "Hey, can I give your next lecture?" And, well, he said yes. The next lecture came and the chauffeur got on stage to give what he had memorized from all of Max Planck's previous lectures. Now, Max Planck was an expert in his field. He actually won a Nobel Prize in physics. And this is where the chauffeur started to fall short. The chauffeur did a fantastic job going through the entire lecture perfectly. And everything went well until he got asked a question. You see, there was a physics professor in the audience who asked the chauffeur, who, I don't know why you don't know his name, anyways, asked him a second order question. A question getting into the reasoning behind exactly what the chauffeur had just been talking about. And only Planck could answer that question because he had the background knowledge to support his lecture. He knew the why. He knew all the little details that led him to this conclusion rather than all the others. And it's that specific information that knowledge is made of, and it separates information from knowledge. Memorization alone is not enough to turn information into knowledge. And Munger concluded at the end of this story that there are two types of knowledge. There's Planck knowledge, which is actually knowing the details, the whys, the reasoning of the content you're talking about. You've really internalized it. And then you've got the chauffeurs, who are really good at memorizing things and regurgitating it back, which can be an advantage in itself, but you really don't understand the information you're talking about. So one of the most important parts about the information advantage is being able to differentiate between data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. And T.S. Eliot created his DIKW model, over here, that really does a good job of breaking it down. So he said that data is discrete, objective facts about an event, and information is a message meant to persuade the receiver of it. Knowledge is experience applied to that message, and wisdom is the collective application of that knowledge in action. That's what we're striving for. And according to T.S. Eliot, information turns into knowledge through conversations, connections, consequences, and comparisons. So to me, that basically means it's through the actions of critical thinking and processing the information, internalizing it to mean something to you. Knowledge really goes beyond memorization. It's helpful to know and remember different pieces because you can then sort of connect them, compare them, you can analyze them, manipulate them, etc. But if you're just gonna memorize, you may as well just be a hard drive. The creation of knowledge takes thought and energy. And we can use our brains to create this knowledge through active effort. Last post I'd mentioned that computers are really helpful in the storage, distribution, and processing of information. But we also use computers to help us turn information into knowledge. And this has naturally led to many software information products. Because if you can make a problem an information problem, you can solve it with information technology. And this has become even more relevant today because our capacity to take in information is far exceeded by the amount that is given to us every day. And this brings us to unlearning. Unlearning is another component of my information mental model. It's the process of discarding outdated information and knowledge. And sometimes you're discarding it for new information and knowledge that fills that gap, and other times there's nothing to fill it. It just doesn't serve you anymore and it's not correct. And if the rate of new information production is as high as it is today, then the new information is displacing the old information at a record pace. So it's really actually one of the most important parts of the model because you really have to be able to let things go, move on, and keep learning, and not just be attached to something that you thought you knew or was the way it was back whenever. Because sometimes knowledge is just our best guess at the time. However, the closer the knowledge is to a first principle, which I've talked about in a previous video, then the more likely it is to withstand time. Creating knowledge and learning go hand in hand. Both are required to stay ahead and keep your information advantage. The final section here is called application and usefulness. The application of knowledge is what makes it useful. It's no good just staying in your head collecting dust because productivity is knowledge in motion. And my career, like many knowledge workers, revolves around the manipulating, processing, distribution, and just general understanding of information. And generally, knowledge workers specialize in some form of information type because you have to know the language, you have to know the rules, you have to know all of the different processes involved to be successful at it as well. But generally speaking, the better you are at managing information, I believe, the more successful of a career you can have as a knowledge worker. And the best thing is that I think that anyone can improve their ability to manage information. It's improved through learning and having a growth mindset and just believing that you can do it. And another newer element of being a knowledge worker is the introduction of computers, which are really the ultimate information management systems. So the more computer literate you are, the more of an information advantage you end up having as well. This is because then you're able to use that computer to its full potential. Computers by themselves are not useful until we do something with them. So one of the most applicable areas I think for the information revolves around decision making. It is said that decision making determines your long-term outcomes more than anything else. So take a moment right now and think about the 5 biggest decisions you've made in your life so far. It could be something like where you lived, where you worked, who your partner is, things you've said yes to, things you've said no to, or really anything else. Those 5 decisions have changed the trajectory of your life. And when you made them, you made your best choice you could with the information you had at the time. And you processed that information in the way you knew how. My point is that having better information and being able to more intelligently process it gives you an advantage. And this can be seen in many personal and business examples. For example, take insider trading. The reason why that's illegal is because it gives the person that has that information a huge advantage over the regular people that are competing in the market. And regulators will try and prevent this from happening, but it still does. So those insiders have better information. Or if you take high frequency traders, they probably have better information, but they also get their information faster than you do. And so they can make their decisions faster than you can. These types of scenarios play out everywhere, but the key thing here is just to understand that the real application and edge of the information advantage comes from your ability to make good decisions. Now, an important component of the information advantage is to use it ethically. Any advantage by definition, whether it's information or otherwise, is going to create inequality. When you have an advantage, you are no longer equal to someone else that doesn't have that same advantage. Now, there's nothing intrinsically right or wrong about that, it's just the way it is. And we all have different levels of advantages in our lives. But what you do with your advantage is up to you and your ethical principles. And I'm not here to tell you what you should do. That's up to you. Shameless plug, but my principles video is linked up here. Using my information mental model allows me to make sense of the world. I can overlay it onto any concept and get a new sort of way of looking at it and understanding by just doing that. The topic of information is vast and I barely covered it in this two-part series. And I do plan to continue to refine my understanding of it, perhaps with more graphics next time. And I hope I introduced you to a new cool way of simplifying your worldview if you didn't know about it before. All right, that's the video. Thank you for tuning into this two-part series. It's great to have you here. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. And if you're feeling extra generous today, leave a comment down below and tell me what series or videos you'd like to see from my channel in the future. And as always, I appreciate you.